World Communications Day was started after the Vatican Council in 1967. It was decided that we'll have a dedicated day to make sure that, since we're asked to spread the good news, that we make the best use of modern communications as it changes and has changed so much since 1967. In the message, Pope Francis says that the family is the place where we encounter love, and it's so true that I was in a home there recently. It was a detention home where people are referred by the High Court, and one of the children gave me a poster on it, because they didn't have this in her home, said that what most children in the care of the HSE want is to be loved by somebody. And then I went down the corridor and I saw a poster, and the principal said to me, you know, that poster there is the one that appeals most to our young people here. And what it read was, the tear, just because you cried does not mean you were weak. It just meant that you stayed strong for too long. Just meant that you stayed strong for too long. Can you imagine the burden on a 12-year-old child to have something like that? So that brings us back to, so it's so crucial that family environments are used as places where love is communicated. And that's where we all learn that we're appreciated. And so many of us have been blessed in that way. In the home, you also learn to communicate in terms of conflict, that there's no home that doesn't have a conflict. And I grew up with, there was 3 of us as lads, and my sister was older and away. But there was one rule: if there was a row at home, we always had to fix it up before the night, even if it was only a grunt of a good night. But you could never let the sun go down on your anger. It's in the family that we first encounter the notion of God's love, and our parents may help us to bless ourselves. We don't know whether they're scratching us or what, but bit by bit over time, we learn in the family that we're loved by God. And it's from there that it develops. The communication within the family also spreads to how we see other people, that we learn that if we've toys, we've got to share them, that if we've gifts, they're not just for us, they're for sharing. And then we're led out into a wider world of caring for the neighbours, or doing little errands for them. And that translates in later life in people having an attitude that everyone is my neighbour. And that's why some people, through the formation in their home, reach out to the third world. So it's really, it's a nucleus of communication of what can be best in society. And that's why the focus is on it this year. I'd encourage everybody to read the Pope's message for World Communications Day, and to focus their attention as a family on its core message. And that is that we can underestimate how we communicate is linked to how we learn to communicate at home. And the more wholesome the home environment is, there's no substitute for that in later training and later experience. School can only build on that. Society and experience can only build on what happens within the home. They did research recently on one of the prisons, and they found that those who were the most disturbed, that they could link it back to a very traumatic incident in their own childhood. So if we don't appreciate the learnt behaviour of home, is the greatest communication of all. It's a great gift. It's one of the greatest gifts parents are given, that you are literally the potter shaping the next generation. And in terms of faith, it is going back to Deuteronomy. You pass it on to your children and to your children's children. That's how faith and good example is learnt and caught. And that's the core message that I picked from this year's World Communications Day.